Hello, everybody. I'm Shane.
And I'm Ken.
And welcome to GemTalk. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of GemTalk. And man, this is the week we've been waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, first week was pretty good.
Second week was alright.
Yeah.
But
Third
this week
was amazing.
Whew, I can't. Just the episodes in this week alone have just far and away impressed me more than I really would have even expected.
Third week was amazing. I can't wait for the fourth week.
Oh, yeah, I cannot wait to see. With already what's been shown, I don't know. I don't think I'm emotionally prepared for this.
Well, this week can really be split into two things. There's a 3-episode Amethyst arc, although it doesn't seem like it at first.
Yeah.
And then we have the Bismuth episode, which kind of stands on its own.
A little bit, but we'll get into that more when we actually discuss the Bismuth episode. But for now, let's go ahead and start with Gem Hunt, which honestly was probably the least appealing episode of the week to me. It does have its moments, but the episode starts out with Connie's first mission.
So I'm guessing Connie is the first full human member of the group that we're aware of.
Well, I'm not sure, because there have been theories that humans helped the war against Homeworld originally. Those are theories.
Right, more speculation on the old mural thing. That mural. But as far as our show is concerned, Connie's the first human member.
Oh, yeah. They, aside from Greg, who I don't really think gets inaugurated in any official sense.
Not really.
Yeah. Connie is the first human, and it's kind of interesting. She's the first human, and she's using Rose's sword. It's almost as if, like Bismuth says, they may actually be hard-pressed for recruits, but people who end up fighting with or for the Crystal Gems tend to be pretty capable regardless.
Yeah, and basically Steven chose her, not just as a friend, but also offered her as a combatant. This episode, Gem Hunt, is the next beat from Sworn to the Sword.
Yeah, they even mention that later on in the episode on the walkie-talkies. But the first thing that even is of note to me is at the very beginning of the episode, first frame, first shot, as soon as they teleport in, and even actually technically before, is a large stone with a giant hole in it.
Yep, which looks just like a whaling stone.
So it's possible that this place may have also been used for transmissions as well as for teleportation.
Yeah, the warp pad obviously hasn't been used in a while because it's covered in snow. Steven's behavior when they first arrive reminds me of an excited parent watching their children go to their first day of school.
Well, yeah. He basically is. He remembers more than likely his own initial training, what it was like to go out and finally be accepted as a crystal gem.
I noted that Connie's relationship with Pearl is like a sensei-student relationship. It's made abundantly clear when she thanks Pearl for allowing her to come on the mission, and she bows to her and everything that. And Pearl just eats it up. She loves it.
Yeah, because she's finally transcended being taught by Rose to teaching others.
Just like with the typical student-teacher relationship when they're on their first test, they're out in the field, and so Pearl's like, repeat the mission. Garnet sensed that there was a corrupted gem out here, so we're supposed to go, disrupt its form, and bubble it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's verbatim what they do in the first several episodes of the series. Yeah. So we're very familiar with this. But it's the first time for Connie to be doing it, so it's almost like it's all new again.
Yeah.
It's just through Connie's eyes. And I want to state that I love the design of the corrupted gem beasts.
Yes. As we said before, I kind of refer to these monsters, the ones that have shown up that look like the quadrupedal, sort of hulking, bestial gems as like behemoths. Mostly because they remind me of the same-named enemies from the Final Fantasy franchise.
Yeah, it's like they don't have discernible eyes, but they have horns, they have claws, they have really big, like, manes, and, of course, with the big, shaggy manes comes the supposition that they're corrupted quartzes.
Well, they do
just
have,
like Jasper.
Well, they look a lot, the gems themselves look a lot like the rose quartz gem, or the amethyst gem.
Yeah, but there's really this weird, like, modeling in the color of the gem, and in the, like, skin color of the beast as well.
Well, yeah, I was actually wondering, because there are two of these corrupted monsters, an orangey brown one and a greenish pink one. And I'm wondering if the orangey brown one is actually a corrupted Jasper. I mean, the gems don't look the same, so it's, who knows, but...
I don't know, but it's possible. They appear to be quartzes. The common theme of the long, white, shaggy hair in Jasper and Amethyst. I mean, Rose seems to be the only one I've seen that looks different.
Yeah, she still has big hair.
Yeah, big hair. Also, I kind of noted that Steven can be kind of irresponsible. He's got the cheeseburger backpack.
Yeah.
And he's packed board games in it. But Connie's got all the survival gear. She's read this survival book 20 times.
Yeah, and she has a lot of adult/human themed concerns. Because Steven is thinking, oh yeah, what happens if, like, the gems destroy Earth as we know it and everything's ruined? But Connie's thoughts are, Steven, we're already destroying the planet as we are. Like, we don't need any help with that. What about, like, oil drilling?
She's got her own personal, like, apocalyptic vision, and kind of gives the stereotypical, like, prepper line, actually.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that her parents have a lot to do with that.
Oh, probably. But it becomes useful as they get split up and they have to kind of camp out in the middle of the snowstorm and everything like that. And I did not know that you could brew pine needles into a tea that tastes terrible but has a lot of vitamin C.
Yeah, that's another one of those small, like, survival tips, is that, yes, you can actually make pine needle tea. I've never had it myself. I'm not personally interested in trying it.
Nope.
But...
not unless we're trapped in the middle of a blizzard in the middle of nowhere.
And is it me, or do Steven and Connie find themselves trapped in blizzards quite frequently?
You know, that is the second time. Funny for a pair of people who live
on the beach
area.
Yeah.
So, first of all, Cookie Cat walkie-talkies.
Yes. I'm really happy to see that they continue with this Cookie Cat line of electronics, which honestly reminds me of Hello Kitty. Like, the Sanrio company does that a lot.
Yeah. They may have stopped making the like, ice cream treat, but the merchandising is everywhere.
Yeah. But we do get a pretty interesting revelation from Steven, and not necessarily a revelation, but I guess more of a supposition, that when he's trying to discuss the nature of corrupted gems, he stumbles on this thought, like, maybe they don't even remember how to be themselves anymore. And he sort of pauses on that, which makes me wonder if that is actually the cardinal issue here, which is that they're so corrupted that they can't even remember what their own physical forms are supposed to be.
Yeah, it seems to me that Steven is still somewhat disturbed by the whole Cenobeetle experience because he was so convinced he was going to be able to help her.
Yeah.
But only was able to help her in a small way, but it wasn't enough. And Garnet even told Steven a long time ago that Rose herself couldn't do anything for these corrupted gems.
Yeah.
So they just keep them here in the temple.
So it makes me wonder if they have to find something that'll heal them completely, or because, I mean, will Steven's powers transcend Rose's? I know that's kind of a running theme in the show, is that Steven is supposed to become stronger or better than Rose eventually. So I don't know if that's what'll happen, and eventually his healing spit will just become so powerful that he'll be able to heal them correctly.
Well, Garnet did say that his healing of the Cenobeetle was the best effort they'd seen so far.
Yeah.
So he kind of already has exceeded what Rose has been able to do. But I wonder if the issue is they don't remember how to be themselves. What if a corrupted gem fused with a non-corrupted gem of the same type?
Yeah, that's... brings in all kinds of different
Because if that one beast is a corrupted form of Jasper, and Jasper, desperate for fusion, fuses with it...
Yeah, one of my running theories, and we'll discuss this a little more later, on what Jasper's plans are, involves forcing corrupted gems to fuse with her.
Whew.
But, and I did catch the very sort of sly reference that Connie makes when she's talking about how maybe it's a monster in a costume and how, that's what normally happens in cartoons. And then she
usually
says...
a property dispute.
Which is just obviously a Scooby-Doo reference.
Oh, yeah.
That's just...
Totally reference to Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, because the monsters in those episodes are always trying to, steal property from somebody or something.
Or scare people off of property
or
whatever.
God.
Yeah.
But, yes, in the middle of the snowstorm, when it seems the bleakest, we actually get the corrupted gems and a surprise Jasper.
Yeah. When they first see the beast cornered trying to get away from something, we now realize it's Jasper.
Yeah.
It's scratching at the wall at the cliff face or whatever. And Steven tries to talk to it, just like he did with Centipede.
Yeah.
It seemed like it wasn't quite sure whether to trust Steven or not. But Connie, being nervous about all this, begins to slowly draw the sword.
Mm-hmm.
The beast sees the sword and freaks out.
Yeah.
And then they're like, ah! Then Jasper shows up.
Yes, yeah. And I have to admit, I do appreciate getting to finally see, minus the fighting in Jailbreak, Jasper in, full form. Just seeing her, flying kick through the, blizzard, land on top of these monsters, backdrop them.
Back leg.
Yeah. And then just tear their gem out like it was nothing.
Yeah, I noticed, the crystal gems will attack the gem's body until it poops, then trap the gem. Jasper just rips the thing out, and I've got to imagine that's probably got to be the most painful way.
Yeah.
But, Jasper doesn't care.
No. Yeah, and just, I'm not personally a Jasper fan myself. I think she's a neat character. I think she makes for a good villain.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing a character who is intended to fight, that fights with full ferocity, and just, I don't know, seeing someone smaller than this massive hulking beast just pick it up with no effort and just swing it around and, throw it, almost reminds me of the Bowser fights from Super Mario 64.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay, yeah. And Jasper's really happy to do it.
Yeah. Well, she was made to fight.
You've ever seen her, you know? And she just tackles this thing and rips out the gem and then looks at Steven and, Rose, look what I got. And then Steven's stunned is just click.
As they're leaving and as, Pearl shows up and congratulates them on, doing what they were supposed to do, Connie says something interesting. She says that her parents see all of her photos. Mm-hmm. And then Steven flips back and, we kind of get to see that picture of Jasper is on Connie's phone.
Right. It didn't dawn on me until at the end of that episode that would have been Connie's phone he's taking those pictures with.
Yeah, which means that her parents are going to see Jasper. Now, what that means, I don't know. Whether that's going to be an issue down the line.
Yeah, I almost feel like the parents, the Maheshwarans, have kind of blended into the background.
I mean, I'm sure we'll see them. I mean, Connie at some point has got to get hurt or something. And, sort of that dawning revelation that maybe, that she is a human. And she can die. In my opinion, dramatically, that seems like that's going to have to rear its head at some point.
And that would totally be a callback to Full Disclosure.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason why Steven wanted to break off relations with her.
Yeah. But that's pretty much the end of that episode. I think the biggest thing we really get out of that is that Connie does feel like she still needs training. She does choke up a bit there, but Pearl, just tells her that, hey, you're doing what you should have. And more surprised Jasper that she is going to be a consistent thorn in our side at this point. And one of the many dramatic exits of Jasper slowly just disappearing into the mist of the blizzard.
Yep. The villain that shows up, kicks some butt, and then just disappears. So, a couple of quick notes. I'm glad that Connie's first attempt at a mission doesn't go according to her idea. I know Pearl was happy with what happened, but Connie was expecting to actually fight and actually do some damage or something like that. But when actually faced with it, she froze up, and that's very important that they do that because it's not easy. Some cartoons or even movies or whatnot make it seem like it's easy for anybody to just pick up a baseball bat and
become
go
like
whacking
a baseball
things,
star or something. Yeah.
It honestly takes somebody with some mental issues to not have that initial doubt or caution. So I'm glad that Connie sort of froze up.
Yeah.
It keeps her human, basically.
Especially if what you're hurting is another human being.
Other than that, Jasper's collecting corrupted gems.
Yes, and I'm sure that that's going to become a big issue all of its own in short time.
Which it does in Crack the Whip. Yay.
Yes. So I wanted to say that this episode's one of my favorites for the week.
Oh, yes.
And I'm surprised that it is, because when the episode starts, it's kind of boring, in my opinion. It's almost the Ferris Bueller's Day Off of episodes.
Yeah.
Because Garnet and Pearl are going to go off to look for Jasper. She's kind of public gem number 1 at this point, forgetting that it's supposed to be Connie's training day.
Yeah. Which Amethyst is quick to point out is irresponsible on Pearl's part.
Of course, because she finally gets to one-up Pearl in what's normally her department. But one of the things I think is neat is that Pearl gives the scenario where, oh, yeah, we'll just pick up training next week without Jasper looming over us. And Garnet says that's the best case scenario.
Right, which means there's a whole lot of not that scenario.
Yeah. But it is one of the many futures.
It is possible.
Yes.
It is possible. There's a chance. Yeah. So Connie's attitude here reminds me of how Steven felt a lot of the time in early episodes when he started going on missions, like the cheeseburger backpack episode. And now it's Connie's turn.
Yeah.
To feel a little guilty for not completing the mission, as I just said, to her liking.
But Amethyst gets to play babysitter. And
in the best way she knows how.
Which is basically, not doing anything. But the kids, knowing that, or I guess feeling that they sort of failed the previous mission, don't want to relent on their training.
Yeah, the little sparring match between the two of them really shows how much both of them have learned about fighting. Like Steven's use of the bubble, his use of his floating ability.
And his summons 2 shields.
Yeah, and Boomerang's shield, which we'll see shortly.
Yes.
But they're just really into it, and they're really good at it. I'd say that they're probably at this point at like an intermediate level compared to the gems.
And Amethyst is just unimpressed, doesn't care, and even when they ask her to pay attention, she still falls asleep with her eyes on her feet.
I love that. But Amethyst does give her reasoning for why she's so nonchalant about the training.
Which, is in some aspects kind of fair. It's kind of a fair explanation. You don't know what's going to happen, so how can you prepare for it?
Right. The answer to that in the real world is that the point of training is so that the motions, the attacks, the defenses become so ingrained into your mind that they're muscle memory.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about them. You just use them.
Yeah. And one of the things that I wanted to make a note of in Amethyst's defense is that she was never part of the war. They make it evident that they found Amethyst after the Gem War, or the War for Earth. And so she doesn't have that sort of built-in knowledge or experience or understanding of what it was like to fight in the war, what it was like to constantly need to be ready for anything.
So she might still have that sort of romanticized concept of war.
Yeah.
But she eventually kind of convinces them to take a
day
break.
Off. Yeah.
And they decide that they're hungry, so they're of course going to go to the Big Donut.
Where Sadie is singing the parody
burger jingle.
Like a burger.
Oh, man.
Oh, I'm so glad that wasn't just like a one-of.
Yeah. And so she shows up disguised as Lars.
Oh my god. Which right off of the new Lars has already... Like, poor Lars. He can't just be himself and have no one else be him.
Right. And she addresses Sadie as Donut Girl.
It'll be
perfectly fine. Just start stealing donuts. But I thought the most interesting point about this for the whole episode was... That's just Amethyst being Amethyst by not being Amethyst. And yes, that is one of the ways she kind of copes.
Deals
she
with
doesn't like being herself, but she's a being that can be other things.
Yeah, so she'll be whatever she wants, whenever she wants. But I also think it's interesting that in the first episode, Amethyst says that they stole all the cookie cats, but Pearl went back to pay for them.
Yeah, I thought about that. Yeah.
Now, Amethyst stole all the donuts, but Connie they went back to pay for them.
Oh, man. And then, of course, they're all sitting on the bench, eating them and everything like that.
But, I mean, to be fair, they have to owe them something. I mean, the crystal gems saved the world.
Yeah.
So, like, a couple, like, maybe $50 worth of donuts here or there.
They've even saved most of Beach City in the past. You know?
But anyway, yeah.
But yeah, then we have a little montage of them, you know,
goofing off on the beach.
And stuff like that. And then she says, Bunga Kawa.
Yes.
Which was in Chilotede. It's funny because Chilotede, that scene where Amethyst said that, was in Steven's dream. So either the show's just referencing back to it for the hell of it, or it's something she said before at some point off camera, and he's remembering it in his dream or whatever.
It may have been said in a previous episode. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and
as soon as she said that, I was like, that was from Chilotede.
Yeah.
When she was being the, like, cool teenager in, like, the sitcom dream that he was having.
But as they're splashing around in the water, while Amethyst is kind of off being a bad babysitter, Steven says that Amethyst is the best because they get to goof off. But then Connie says that, no, you're the best. And it was just a really cute scene that shows that the two of them are getting closer and closer as time goes on. And as that cute scene's going on, the Gem Beast appears and just kind of nonchalantly plots its way onto the beach.
Yeah, and the two of them are like, oh boy.
And Steven bubbles up to protect them, and Amethyst just kind of does what she does, wings it, and pops the thing.
She did it with some difficulty, but she still poofed it.
And it seems almost as if Amethyst is correct at first, because it took them some difficulty and some concern fighting that beast with all of their training and all their preparation, but Amethyst just kind of took it out without much of an issue.
Right. And I don't know if people might have missed this, but Steven did bubble and send away that gem.
Yeah.
So that beast is in the temple now.
Mm-hmm.
So Jasper lost one of the two beasts that she picked up in the previous episode.
Yeah, so they're already sort of whittling her numbers down.
But then they remind Amethyst that there were two.
Yes, and that's when, again, surprise Jasper.
Surprise Jasper.
She bursts out of the ocean riding the second monster.
Yep. Again, Jasper always refers to Steven as Rose.
Yes.
And I was thinking about this, and the previous two villains that are no longer villains anymore, Lapis and Peridot, they still refer to Steven as Steven.
Yeah. Well, I think because they are not as in tune with the war. I mean, Peridot is a Era 2 gem, which, by my speculations, again, happened after the war.
Right.
So
they might not even talk about it.
Yeah, and Lapis, if she was an aristocrat or an elite or a spy or something, she may not personally know much, if anything, about Rose.
Yeah, well, I think she knows a lot more about the war than she lets on, but she really bonded with Steven when she was in the mirror. She convinced Steven to release her from the mirror and all that, and so she referred to him as Steven because that's how he introduced himself.
Yeah.
But this is another signal that Jasper is not going to care about any of this other stuff. Jasper is in it for herself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she just wants to fight. That's, as far as I've been made aware, Jasper strikes me very much like a Vegeta character, to make another anime reference.
Interesting.
Because Jasper only lives to fight, only lives to be the best, to win, to never stop until she gets what she wants. And I think because Jasper said she studied Rose's tactics, that she has a personal vendetta against Rose just because Rose was so strong that she managed to fend off Homeworld. So Rose, in her mind, is probably like the best warrior. And so her goal is to be better than the best.
Right. The difference being that Vegeta eventually becomes an ally character.
Yeah.
Which doesn't change his ability to be acerbic.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
but that's just his personality.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot be in the camp that wants to see Jasper redeemed. I just can't.
Yeah, it's nothing against Jasper personally. It's just dramatically, story writing wise, there has to be a villain that just cannot be saved. Now, to make a bit of a flash forward, we sort of see that in Bismuth, but that's a difference of ideals. What we have in Jasper is just pure, unrelenting rage, an unquestionable tour de force, and I want there to be a pure villain-based character that cannot be convinced to join the Crystal Gems.
Right, and that takes the heroes a while to bring down.
Yeah.
So, during the fight between Jasper and Amethyst during all of Jasper's taunting of Amethyst for being a runt, for
not living up to what she should be.
Right, for like ignoring her fighting instincts when Amethyst says flippantly, I got better things to do. Which at first it's like, fine, that's Amethyst being Amethyst, right?
Yeah.
By being Amethyst this time.
Yeah.
But no, Jasper acts as though Amethyst had a choice in her form. Almost like she could have emerged fully formed, but somehow chose not to be. Like, they've called her overcooked before.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that because she says, you could have been me, implying, like, if things had gone right, you could have been as big and as strong as I am.
Right.
But you're not me. And that's sort of when we get to the point where Amethyst says, like, oh, well, Rose said that I was perfect the way that I was.
Right.
And, of course, still taunting as the, brazen person she is. She says, oh, well, she must have had low standards.
Right. So Amethyst's psyche is kind of built on that statement, on what Rose told her, that she's perfect the way she is.
Yeah.
And
anything that sort of detracts from that or shakes that just shatters her
in
mind.
that moment, Jasper completely undermined everything that kind of held Amethyst together, because we already know she has a lot of self-hate, she has a lot of personal doubt, she's embarrassed about her origins, about her past, and Jasper just takes all of that, forms it into like a psycho like bomb, and then blows her up with it.
Yes. And so we see Amethyst finally snap and go at her full force.
I haven't seen that angry face in a long time.
Yes. And unfortunately, all of Amethyst's power that she draws from that anger and that rage just get literally kicked away, and as she's falling to the ground, still getting taunted by Jasper.
I gotta say, when I was watching this episode the first time, and Jasper kicks the spinning Amethyst into the air, and she's coming down upside down slowly, I'm like, she's gonna get headbutt.
Yeah.
And then boom!
Into the soil.
And poof!
Yes.
And I'm like, oh boy.
And the thing that bothered me the most or scared me the most is that she actually gets her hand on Amethyst's gem.
And she says,
time to get rid of this like atrocity or whatever.
Right, and I'm like, oh my god, she's gonna shatter her.
Yeah. Oh, well, I thought that she was gonna corrupt her at first. Like, she was gonna find some way, because she's building her own army.
Yeah, well, I'm still in the camp of only the diamonds can do the corruption thing.
Maybe, but I thought that somehow she was gonna convert Amethyst to her side.
But no, Steven and Connie come running in, holding hands, and as soon as I see that scene, I was like, oh no, and then, oh yes.
Boom! We finally get what we've been waiting for so long, which is to see Stevani equipped.
Fighting!
Yes. With the shield in one hand, the sword in the other, and just not having any of Jasper's crap.
Right. Well, first I want to note that Stevani kicks Amethyst's gem out of Jasper's hand.
Yeah.
With kind of like a backflip and catches it and everything, which remind me a lot of what Garnet did in Jailbreak.
Yeah.
That kind of acrobatics, which is not Jasper's strong suit. Jasper's more the brute force.
Yeah.
And so they get the gem back, and she says, I don't want to hear anything from you unless it's sorry. So there's always that out. They always give Jasper or whoever they're fighting that out. We could still be friends, but you've got to take it.
Well, yeah. I think that's kind of Steven's thing. He's never going to want to hurt somebody. He's never going to want to have to fight somebody. But if it comes down to it, that's what'll happen. He always gives the opponent the opportunity to reconsider. But if they won't, then he's not going to let them hurt his friends.
Just like Garnet said.
Exactly.
And so we get this great scene of Jasper on the corrupted gem beast and Stevani on Lion with the sword and the shield, and I just melted.
Yes,
it was
going
just like
head to head, just like Jasper likes it. But as they're about to have their climactic clash, running towards each other,
Stevani jumps into the air, throws the shield, which Jasper catches, and I'm sure Jasper's like, I caught this just like I caught Amethyst's whip, whatever. Yeah. But no, your hands are occupied. Right. Sword, boom! And that just To me, that is the combination of Connie's intelligence with Steven's power.
Yeah, and as the strike occurs, there's the poof and the typical sound of a gem being poofed. Right. And for a split second, I thought they did it. Yeah. I thought they managed to defeat Jasper.
Yeah.
But no, of course not. They managed to poof the monster, and Jasper makes her second dramatic exit.
This exit is so funny.
Slowly backing away
into the ocean.
And I mean, I think they sort of show their hand on how silly that is, because Stefani even says, well, I guess she lives in the ocean now.
Yeah. But as she's retreating, she says Jasper's always get what they want.
Yeah, keep fighting until they get what they want.
Which is just the typical villain threat,
I'll be back,
Next
time.
So then Amethyst reforms, and she's wearing a white shirt.
Well, yeah, but I want to take a step back, because what is most interesting to me is Amethyst's reformation, her actual process of reforming. Because there are two bits. The first is when she's reforming, her hands show up first, and she's digging into the sand, almost like she's struggling. Now, Amethyst is no stranger to reforming. There's an entire episode about it.
Right, and she also mentions that she's scrappy.
Yeah, so. She reforms regularly. But it always seems like she kind of just does her thing. The gem starts floating up, and boom, here I am again in a different shape. But to actually see her struggling to reform, it's interesting, because I'm not sure if she's just trying to make herself hurry up and reform, if she's just trying to push herself so fast that she can get back into the fight, or if she's fighting to not become a monster, because her own psyche is so distorted.
From what Jasper said,
that she can't hold on to her own emotional self anymore. She can't take it anymore, and she's just trying so hard to be bigger, to be stronger, which is the second thing, because we see her form kind of undulate and billow up as she's reforming. Now, I'm not sure if that's just the typical gem thing where they cycle through all of their shapes, as we've seen Pearl do, because I actually went through that transformation scene by scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, not frame by frame, rather, looking, and you don't get a good look at any of her previous forms. And so, could it be that they're just trying to make an allusion to that form where her arm was all bulgy,
right? That's what I figured
lopsided? It was, That's possible, but it's also because you don't see any of her other forms. You don't see the pearl-like shaped form that she made during that episode. You don't see like the child Amethyst. Yeah, you don't see the feet for. You don't see any of that. You just see her kind of billowing out. And so I don't know if they're making an allusion to all of the forms just very quickly so they can get through it, or if she's trying to make herself bigger in order to fight Jasper.
Yeah. It also occurred to me that since they have to cycle through all those old forms, the more you get poofed, the more energy it takes to reform.
Yeah.
And there may be a limit to how many times you can be poofed and still come back as you.
Yeah, that's also possible.
Because it just seems to take more and more and more energy. I was interested in the psychological sort of meaning behind why she chose a white shirt, because she's always just been purple and black.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that personally, because when she comes back, she does have that white shirt, but it's all tattered looking. I thought it may have just had to do with the fact that they wanted to give her a more sort of like tossed about look, like she'd just gotten out of a battle and her clothing is sort of messed up.
Then she'll have to get poofed again at some point and maybe come back with something more normal or whatever. I don't know. But I know when we were looking at the previews, we knew she was going to get poofed at some point because suddenly she has a white shirt.
Yeah.
The thing is, she comes back and
she realizes that they managed to fend off Jasper without her.
Right. Also, I forgot to mention that just as Jasper's getting ready to retreat, she's like, fusion. Like, she has been beaten both times by a fusion. By Garnet and now by Stefani.
Mm-hmm.
And her focus on fusion and how it seems to be like the only answer. Or is this a typical villain's deflection of her own defeat by just blaming it on fusion. Oh, you were fused, so okay. I mean, that was kind of obvious in Jailbreak when she goes from fusion is some cheap trick to
fuse with me.
Yeah, you only won because you were fused. Excuse me.
Yeah. So I think that that's possibly more of an allusion to the fact that she realizes fusion is almost like another level. Like, I need to fuse if I'm going to beat them. That's kind of what I think she's realizing there. Like, it's always fusion. This is what it's going to be about. But as, again, she retreats, we have Amethyst realizing that, oh, you've already taken care of her. And the kids are reveling. They're so happy that they succeeded. But what they don't seem to realize at first is that Amethyst just got a double dose of inferiority complex here. Not only has Jasper been insulting her the entire episode.
Did a pretty good job of taking her apart.
Yeah, but now she has to realize that what she later calls the worst crystal gem and a human have surpassed her, and that's just not good for her emotional well-being.
Right. I think she's become used to being sort of under Garnet and Pearl. Mm-hmm. Of course, they were there before, so they've got more experience, but we have that thing, which is actually sort of a parent-child thing. When the child begins to meet or exceed the parent, sometimes it's difficult for the parent to accept.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's, we go into this more in the next episode.
Yeah.
But, her last statement before it abruptly cuts, and the fact that it's an abrupt cut tells me that this was intended to be an arc, okay? She says, "You didn't need me at all." And I'm going to argue that that is not true.
Oh, okay? Yeah.
Because she pooped the first monster, okay? Which is important because I'm sure if both monsters were there with Jasper, would have been a hard time.
Yeah. Not only that, but it's the inspiration that Amethyst got poofed that really made them want to fight.
That was going to be exactly my second point.
Yeah.
Now, it's a passive role, obviously, but Amethyst needed to be defended, so they jumped into action and defended her. That might not make Amethyst feel good, but it's still the case. There was nobody else there. I mean, if Steven and Connie weren't able to defeat Jasper, if they got defeated, and if Amethyst got crushed, and if Jasper got access to the temple, which was probably why she was there in the first place, obviously it's the worst case scenario.
But, as you said, that sort of bleeds us into the next episode, which is Steven versus Amethyst. Now, when this episode starts up...
When they leaked the title of this episode, the speculation was all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, what would pit Steven against Amethyst? What's going on here?
I really thought that Amethyst was going to end up converting or somehow getting so frustrated that she just turned against everybody. Or that we were going to have another Purple Puma episode where Steven as Tiger Millionaire and Purple Puma just have to fight each other. There were so many ways that this episode could be interpreted, but no, Amethyst is just so distraught, but not wanting to show it, obviously.
Right. We start off with Steven excitedly telling Pearl and Garnet what had happened, that they fused to Stevani, they defeated Jasper, yay. And Pearl and Garnet are all happy about it because it's another step in his progression or whatever. And then there's poor Amethyst over on the couch.
Not able to get involved because her role was somewhat unfortunate. But they're gonna go train, and she mentions the Pearl Points. Or Steven mentions the Pearl Points, yes.
What are Pearl Points?
I'm sure that everybody out there has made, like, all the artists out there have made their Pearl Point stickers.
I've seen somebody's made, like, point stickers for all the gems.
Oh my god.
Out there, yeah. And they all have the little, like, swirly eyes and all that.
I'm telling you, it's money just waiting to happen. If you haven't made your version of the Pearl Points yet to sell at your booth at a con, this is GemTalk endorsement. Go ahead and do that. I'm sure you'll appreciate it.
I'm sure the next time we go to will just be full of Pearl Points.
But yes, and the Pearl Points are obviously for the Pearl Prize pouch, which I'm pretty sure is just an allusion to the thing that, like, teachers do in elementary school, where if the kids are good enough, they can choose, like, a toy out of a bin or something.
Yeah, this is Pearl full teacher mode.
Yeah.
She just loves being in teacher mode.
Oh, yeah, and she even has the chalkboard from when they were going to make a school together. And Amethyst wants to be a part of it.
Yeah, because she's hoping to get some extra training, and I think because she really does want to see if Steven's better than her.
Yeah, this is a good benchmark to test herself against Steven. But she, obviously, her inferiority complex won't let that become apparent. So, yeah, I'm just here to, give Steven inspiration.
Right. So we meet Hollow Pearl.
Again.
Version 2.0000001.
Designed for less lethal training.
Right.
I want to take a minute to say that this scene takes place back in the ruins, the Sky Temple ruins. And if I did not pause this episode 50 or more times to get a closer look at everything that's in the temple now that we have more information about the diamonds, because there is one of the structures that kind of looks like yellow diamond, and one of them has like this rounded head and a morning star, but that doesn't look like blue diamond. The third one has a head that's more shaped like pearls, and it's holding a spear. So a lot of things to talk about here. If these are the diamonds, then blue diamond should be here somewhere, but none of them look like blue diamond.
Wasn't one of those 4 pillars completely destroyed?
Yeah, but the supposition there was that was pink diamond.
Right.
And if it is, then where's white diamond? Because none of them really look like white diamond either. So I think, because this is referred to as a battleground at one point, or as an arena, that maybe these aren't the diamonds that we're looking at, but maybe these are like chosen champions of the diamonds that were just really good in combat.
Oh yeah, like you see statuary of some famous knight from history or whatever to inspire other warriors. Yeah.
And there's the writing on these spires is,
now that we know there is gem writing,
is very clear. Now, I haven't had the time personally to go back and try to piece together whether there's reoccurring sequences in the letters, but I'm sure someone out there, and again, if you haven't, this is your hint that it's probably a good idea.
Get on it.
Yes. Will be able to start piecing it together. Because I personally don't think there's enough context yet to make out.
And even the Cenobeetle's writing is perfectly legible, but it definitely looks like a cursive script, whereas what's on these pillars is a more blocky printed type script. Going back to the Hollow Pearls, they're really funny. When Steven hits one with the spear laser, reflecting it back, and it says defeat accepted.
Yes. That. Yeah, and he uses Boomerang Shield, which he very directly announces, which I think is supposed to be an allusion to Boomerang Blade.
Right, from Lonely
Blade.
Yeah,
so he's incorporating his own nerdy subculture into his training.
Right, well, if you remember, he wanted to learn Boomerang Blade in Steven the Sword Fighter.
Yeah.
And of course, Pearl was like, that's not how it works, but apparently you can Boomerang Shield, so sure, go for it. Defeat, accepted.
Yes, and as I'm sure Amethyst was afraid of, she gets trounced in pretty much all of the tests.
Right. And it's just strange. I can understand maybe in the running test, because Amethyst didn't even bother doing the spin thing. Like, she didn't hit the diamond.
Yeah.
But she spun around the bases. Okay. She didn't do that this time. And with the agility test, it seemed like she did okay. The only reason that Steven did any better was that he reflected a shot back to one of the pearls.
I think his was just like more fancy.
I guess.
Just a bit like flashier.
But with the straight out combat, Amethyst can't seem to get to this particular Hollow Pearl, who just keeps backing away. And it makes more sense later when Amethyst says, like, I get angry at myself, and then I start doing even worse.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the issue, is that Amethyst tries to draw her power from her raw rage, her raw anger, her raw energy. She doesn't focus it at all. And so, as I know we've discussed before, you can have all the power in the world, but if you can't hit anything, it's worthless.
Right.
And that's sort of Amethyst's problem, is that her energy and power, it's all there. It's just not focused. It's just everywhere. And so it's not very effective. Whereas Steven, he may not be as strong, but he's learned to focus the power that he does have. And so when he sees an opportunity, he sees all 4 of the Hollow Pearls in the air, he knows, hey, if I just throw my shield, it'll hit all 4 of them. And, is successful in that.
Right. I'm sure that's probably one of the main reasons why she enjoys fusing, because that focus, it becomes easier to achieve, especially with Opal. So then we go to the part where Steven's playing a fighting game based on Lonely Blade, which is great. Yes. It's just great. There's all these other characters there now, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because there are some references there too. Wood Guy, who is a guy made entirely out of wood, more than likely a reference to Mokujin from Tekken. And there's also Bombo Bom Bom Bombo, who I'm sure is probably some sort of fusion between Bobobo, which is an anime, and Bomberman. So there's also that. And there's a white bear who they never hover over in the character selection, who may be a reference to that character from the show We Bare Bears.
I figured as much. Yeah. I thought that was like a little insert right there.
Yeah. It may also be a reference to Kuma, who's also from Tekken, who's just a bear.
Right.
The character is just a bear.
Right. And the guy that he defeats in the first round that we see says, like, even my hands are dead.
Yeah, even my fists are dead. Yes. Yeah. But Steven calls Amethyst over to play the game because he kind of has this plan to try to make her feel better by, pretending to be bad at the game, which is, as a pretty practiced player of fighting games, I know is generally a poor tactic to do on anyone.
Yeah.
Don't make them feel better by throwing the game. Yeah, you'll just hurt their feelings.
Yeah, especially if they're, like, wise to it.
Yeah, so he's trying really hard to make Amethyst feel better, but it just comes off as patronizing. And Amethyst says, "You're not even trying," which is one of the things that Jasper said to her, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and then Amethyst gets upset now because Steven's acting more mature than her, too. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because she's in this sort of depressed state, yet she can clearly see all the causes of her depression. She just can't seem to get around them or get through them.
She can't find a solution because she's too trapped in the problem itself.
Mm-hmm. Before we get away from the video game scene, I just wanted to mention that when Steven first shows the GameCube controller, it has, on its title, it says Sumi, which is just like the televisions and stuff that we see there.
Seems to be the generic brand they go to, the parody of Sony.
But later on, we get a closer up look of that same controller, and it says Dolphin on it.
Yeah.
Which, aside from the small error in the name change, it's also a great reference to the GameCube, which it's obviously parodying.
Yeah, it was the original project title for the GameCube was The Dolphin.
Yeah.
Someone's been doing their homework.
Yeah, people have pointed out that Steven has a GameCube, and they've even did a good job of replicating some of the box art and some of the background scenes and stuff like that. So it's great. The fans love picking that stuff out. But then they get into an argument. And one of the craziest arguments I think I've ever heard over who is worse.
Yeah, they can't... because they both want to feel like they're not good enough. And so now they're kind of competing over who gets the right to not be good enough. And so they decide that they're going to fight over it.
Yeah, and now here we know what Steven versus Amethyst is all about.
Yes. They go back to the temple, or rather the Sky Arena. They're going to fight each other. And they're complimenting each other as they're fighting, because, oh, that was so awesome. Nothing I do is awesome. Oh, you think I was trying to do that on purpose?
Yeah. Each one complimenting the other not accepting the compliment. Yeah. And
accidents can't be awesome.
And we do get at least a variation of a power. We have the spike bubble now.
Yes. Now Steven can add spikes to the bubble. And as Amethyst is swinging the spike bubble around and destroying parts of the arena, there's actually a scene where you can see that the fourth statue that's shattered, whatever weapon it was holding is one-handed. And that's really about as much information as I could derive from that.
Yeah, not going to get many more good looks of the temple now that they've destroyed it. Yeah. I also noted that Steven can take a beating, like much more than a human normally could, because when Amethyst grabs him as he's floating away and then like trips over a piece of rubble, she grabs him with the whip and then like yanks him down, and he goes full force into the ground. Like, this is DBZ stuff. But he's still okay, because when that first happened, I was like, oh no, like
oh god,
something
killed
major
her.
happened. Okay, something major just happened here. But no, Steven's okay. And then Amethyst gets upset about that.
Yes.
You know, you almost defeated me with a rock. And then she tries to pick it up, and she can't lift it. And then
they go to punch each other eventually.
They realize that they're both getting tired out, and this whole thing's getting ridiculous anyway.
So they decide that they're just gonna, like, run up to each other and try to, like, take each other out with one final swing, and then normally what happens in these situations is that, like, both people punch each other and knock each other out, but no, they both miss.
And then they fall over, and they begin to realize the ridiculousness of the situation, and...
Well, they kind of, like, reveal to each other why they've been feeling this way. They kind of talk about it, and realize that they both kind of have the same problem.
Yep, because they're both not what they're supposed to be. And here we have, again, that gem culture. You are what you are supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And Amethyst is upset because she can't be what she's supposed to be. Steven's upset because he can't be Rose Quartz.
Mm-hmm, which everyone expects him to be.
Right. And it's funny, when Steven mentions that, Amethyst does a good facepalm. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you realize that they being... Pearl and Garnet probably said to Amethyst, don't draw attention to this, like, don't focus on it. And then she realized she just did. And she was like, don't.
Well, to be fair, I think that Amethyst is the one who's least likely to make Steven feel like he needs to be Rose. She's never been the one to say, like, Rose is so amazing and great. Rose is always the one that led us. Rose is, you know, this, that, the other thing. Yeah, she says pleasant things about Rose, but I don't think she ever makes Steven feel like he has to be Rose. That's more Pearl's thing. Again, it's all incidental, but I think it's Pearl and Garnet, who went through the war with Rose, so it makes sense, were the ones who probably make Steven feel like, this is what I need to be for them. Whereas Amethyst would probably just be fine if he was always kind of the same, always a runt or whatever. But yeah, once they talk about their problems and they realize that they have a lot more in common than they first realized, the scene gets kind of abruptly cut short by Pearl, who shows up and realizes, oh my god, what have you done? You've ruined the ruins.
And it ends on a high note.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And like most stories or arcs, we have like a pleasant sort of ending to at least this part.
Interesting to note that this really hasn't been resolved.
No.
Amethyst isn't really going to rest until she gets a second shot at Jasper.
Mm-hmm.
But at least she's not going to feel so terrible about herself.
Yes. But that will have to wait, because we have a more interesting gem on our hands.
A very much anticipated episode.
Yes.
This is a half-hour special.
Yes. And the episode actually starts without a title card.
Yes, they did something very unique here.
But we'll touch on that in a bit. So the scene opens with Steven playing a video game. Well, not really knowing what's going on.
Right.
Because all the gems are like, you only have one chance. You can't mess this up. You know, you're down to your last shot. But yeah, we realize that he's playing a video game. And he says dying a bunch in video games is emotionally exhausting. Which I don't know if that's supposed to be an allusion to the fact that he's like witnessed himself or envisioned himself dying a lot in real life. Mm-hmm. And maybe they're trying to hammer home again that there's the potential that Steven could die.
Yeah, they keep ringing that little bell.
Yeah.
You know? So I love it when we get scenes of Lion acting like a house cat.
Yes, jumping up on furniture and tearing things apart.
Oh, man. So Steven stops him from ripping up the shirt, tries to put it away. It's funny. How am I going to remember that I rode the Thunderbird? Puts it on a shelf where there's a frame that says I rode the Thunderbird next to like a button or something that says I rode the Thunderbird. But Lion won't leave the thing alone. Now, usually when Lion's misbehaving like this, he has a purpose.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this just happened to be incidental because I don't think Lion was expecting what happens.
Oh, no, definitely not. Poor Lion.
Yeah, but so he goes inside because he realizes that the best place to hide the shirt from Lion is inside Lion, and takes it into the main, up to that little like hill where all of Rose's treasures are kept. Mm-hmm. Tosses it over a branch, and again, in comedic fashion, says, hey, it's a good thing this perfectly stable, safe tree is here to, protect everything, and nothing possibly wrong could happen. snap.
Yeah. And lands right on the bismuth bubble that we've all been speculating about since we saw it.
Yes.
And it pops, and then he
tumbles
falls out of Lion's Mane. I made a terrible mistake.
Oh wait, I can fix it. Just jumps back in. And
now, when Bismuth first pops out, she appears ready for a fight. She's got her fists up. She's like, "Whoa, what?" And then realizes that she's probably in some place she's never seen before.
Mm-hmm. But as we find out later, and this is going to sort of blend, because we can't like talk about the episode and then go back and talk about everything that happened. So as the things start to blend, we're going to try to discuss the revelation that comes from the twist at the end of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
So Bismuth comes out. When she comes out, her, like he said, her fists are drawn. She looks ready to fight or just confused. And we realize because that's what was happening when she originally got poofed.
Right.
She was fighting Rose. So when she gets reconstituted, her mind is still in, I'm fighting somebody. But yeah, that can be easily confused at first because you don't know that when the reformation first happens.
When Bismuth first comes out, and first of all, Pearl and Garnet are so happy to see Bismuth.
Oh, yeah.
That their defenses are completely down.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't see anything wrong with anything that's going on. It's funny, again, to see Amethyst in the suspicious mode, because Amethyst's never seen this gem before.
Yeah, and to be the voice of reason, because they're all celebrating, Bismuth is back, it's like finding an old, like, war buddy that, you know, you thought disappeared or died.
However, the moment that, again, excellent framing, Bismuth is front, facing toward the camera, right? And there's Pearl and Garnet behind her, and they're saying how, like, Rose said she lost track of you at the ziggurat, I think they said.
Battle for the ziggurat.
Yeah, and this expression comes over Bismuth's face.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the moment that she realizes Rose didn't tell them anything about what just happened.
Yeah. Yeah, she lied. She just straight up lied and said that she lost track of Bismuth, where we know that, no, Rose poofed Bismuth, bubbled her, and stuck her inside Lion. So none of what she said was true at all.
Right.
And that, as Bismuth says later, her interpretation of that is that Bismuth meant nothing to Rose. That she didn't even tell her best friends what happened to her.
Right.
That she was willing to defeat her and hide her away, and hopefully, again, probably from Bismuth's perspective, people would just forget about her.
Right, right. And to an extent they did, because they never mentioned Bismuth to Amethyst whatsoever.
Yeah.
So Amethyst knows nothing about any of this. Pearl says something early on in the episode that I feel is the theme of the whole episode, which is, it's not always easy to understand Rose's choices, but we have to stand behind them.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, this is what they meant to say. And so Rose decided that the safest thing to do was to bubble Bismuth, so that's what they chose to do.
Yeah, but as Bismuth is kind of putting together what happened, she sees Steven, because she's happy. Oh, hey, we got new recruits. Always, could always use more amethysts. But who's this meatball? And kind of has to explain the concept that, hey, this is Rose, but not really. And when she's kind of putting all this together, she starts to realize that she has a second chance. And it's from that moment that I think she starts trying to win Steven over.
Right.
So that inevitably when they go back to the Forge, he'll want to accept her plan.
Right. They go to the Forge, and again, Pearl and Garnet are just so happy that Bismuth is there that their defenses are down. So it's the two others that she has to win over. Now, unfortunately, Amethyst was easy to win over.
Oh, yeah.
Upgrade her whip, and she is good.
Yeah.
By the way, video game style upgrades to the weapons.
Oh, yeah.
This is great. We get some spikes for Garnet's gauntlets, and Pearl gets a trident. Now we've got a flail instead of a whip, and that's just great. And I did remember thinking at that point, okay, so is there going to be an upgrade for the sword? Well, yes, so that's going to be the crux of the whole episode.
But before they even go to the Forge, there are a few things that Bismuth mentions that are pretty interesting. One, when they're discussing the war stories, she says that Pearl pulled a nephrite out of a drop ship.
Yeah, it was such a quick reference that when the episode was over, I was like, wait a minute, they mentioned another kind of gem. I'm going to go back and listen to that again.
Yes, and as we found out later, nephrites are actually green and black gems.
Yes, and they're in the same family of gem as jade.
Yes, and it's quite possible, especially seeing as they were originally on ships, that nephrites may be what Centipedal was.
Yeah. The Centipedal said that she came in a ship with a bunch of other gems.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe nephrites are pilots.
Yeah, maybe they're transportation gems.
Yeah, maybe they're gem equivalent of truck drivers.
Yeah.
You know?
So that could be interesting. Maybe we'll end up healing the Centipedal at some point, and Pearl will be like, oh god, that's a nephrite. But yeah, so they decide to go to the Forge, which, amazing foreshadowing. They teleport in, and everything is black and gray. There's smoke billowing out of the volcano tops. Right. Everything is foreboding and ominous. Mm-hmm. And Steven can't see the forest for the trees because he's just...
It's a new place.
Well, he's just happy because he wants to know more about Bismuth. Who's this? What does she do? What does she mean by that? She's got jokes.
Oh god, the star eyes.
Yes.
Even Amethyst gets star eyes when she gets the flail. I love it.
But yeah, they go into the Forge, and we learn that we were right. Bismuth, yes, is indeed
a blacksmith.
Yes. And she's everything that anybody would ever want in someone with a forge, because she just grabs some metal here, some bits there, just freaking pushes her hand into the molten lava, and hey, sword.
Yeah. And her ability really is to shapeshift her hands into pretty much any tool.
Yeah, she can make her hands into a mallet. She can turn it into a blade. And we get the back in Bismuth joke.
Oh, man.
Which is great because she uses it once, it's funny. She uses it twice. Amethyst, sort of breaking the fourth wall, says, I don't know, same joke twice.
But then Amethyst uses it.
Yeah. But Steven says the third time she uses it, it'll be really funny. And I think it's great that the third time she uses it is when she first gives him the breaking point, which is quite possibly the least funny time that she makes the joke.
So they go into the sparring, and the ferocity of these sparring matches is beyond anything Steven's seen before. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we've seen much of the gems sparring with each other prior to this.
Not much.
I know that there was the scene where they were all trying to show Steven how to fusion dance, but, So Steven's watching, and he's like, ooh, something's not right about this. He starts to get a bit unnerved by all that, and Bismuth wants Steven to come and join into the fight, and he's like,
Actually, I have some of my own rituals, which are a lot of the typical home
stuff.
Cooking and playing video games and stuff. And Bismuth says that she thinks it's pretty cool. She's into it. And again, she's, in my opinion, really just trying to win Steven over so that when she drops the breaking point on him, that he'll be willing to comply.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take a moment to say that I really wanted this character to be a mainstay. They did such a great job with the promo of showing all the best parts of Bismuth, the most sympathetic parts. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No indication in the promo whatsoever that there was anything dark going on here, except for our fan speculations of why did Rose bubble her?
Yeah.
She must have been dangerous.
For some reason.
So guess what?
Yes, and it's good foreshadowing on the Steven Krooniverse for showing that Bismuth was the one that poofed Lapis, because that's sort of what drew people's interpretations to Bismuth being pretty violent somehow.
Yeah, dangerous in some way, yeah.
Few things as they're sitting before Bismuth plans to go to bed. She confirms a few things. Bismuth confirms a few things, I believe. She says that she made Rose's sword. Mm-hmm. So we're good on that. We know that we were right about that. She confirms that Rose is a court soldier. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much been confirmed now.
Yep. Rose is not Pink Diamond, period.
Deal with it. And confirms, or at least alludes to the fact that Rose was made on Earth.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa, what?
Yeah, she says that she was made right here in the dirt. Now, a lot of people have brought up the scene in Rose's Scabbard where Pearl, playing back, which is probably a memory, of Rose saying, you know, if we do this, we can never go home. Now, my rebuttal to that is just because they were made on Earth doesn't mean Earth was their home. They may have lived on Homeworld for a while before being sent back to Earth to defend it, or rather to take it.
Yeah, other gems like Peridot have said that, you know, when they emerge, they just emerge knowing how to do what they do. Like, this is probably why there's no such thing as an education system on Homeworld, because there's no need for it.
Yeah,
they just come out knowing what they need to do.
Yeah.
But perhaps they were just making quartzes on Earth for use elsewhere. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But they decide that they're going to upgrade Steven's sword, because everyone else got upgrades, and he deserves a better weapon, too.
So I'm like, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Hydraulic piston thing was not
on the list. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they go back to the Forge. And the Forge was already, as I've stated, a pretty creepy place. But they literally descend into a lava-filled pit, which the imagery there, come on. Like, they literally descend into hell.
Yeah.
And as they're there, she opens up the chest and she says, you know, here it is. Here's the weapon that could have won the war. And, you know, we finally get to see the breaking point.
Right. But Steven's like, whoa.
Yeah, this has just got way too real, way too quick.
Because it's funny, I think it's in our last episode, we said that they kind of soften the whole attacking and killing thing because the gems get poofed, they can reform, they're fine.
Mm-hmm.
No, here's a weapon that's intended to shatter a gem.
Yes, to effectively kill the being, which Steven sort of realizes.
Obviously, it's a killing act. It's like the ultimate punishment that you can give to a gem, and Bismuth just wants to run back to Homeworld.
Well, yeah, because what we're seeing here, Rose and Bismuth had the same end goal, but their intentions, their plans, their means of going about it were different. Rose wanted to be different than her enemies. She wanted to show them that peace, compassion could win out, that as long as you, sort of like nonviolent resistance, she would fight if she had to, but she didn't want to kill anybody. She didn't want to have to overstay her point. As seen when they attack the base in The Answer, she poofs the rubies effortlessly. She doesn't break anything. Mm-hmm. Even though she probably could have just turned around and stepped on those gems if she wanted to.
Right.
But Bismuth is the other means of solving this problem, which is, I will do what my enemies are willing to do to accomplish my goal.
Right. When Steven points out that fact that, you know, we'll be no different than them, and Bismuth gives these reasons for using it for the sake of our cause, to protect our allies and our friends, and to free all gems from Homeworld's tyranny. It would be really easy for a Homeworld gem to flip that all around. One side's freedom fighters are another side's terrorists.
Yeah,
so
and it really forces you to come to grips with the fact that Bismuth is dangerous. She's going to do what she wants, but she's willing to give this power to Steven. She wants him to be the leader, to take this weapon and lead the forces. And the problem is that Steven is not going to do this. He is not going to allow this to happen, which is unfortunate because this is the moment that Bismuth had been waiting for. This was her second chance from her perspective. And just as it had previously, it gets rejected in almost the same exact way.
Right. And that brings up the breaking point
yes.
of this encounter. As soon as Bismuth believes that Steven is Rose in disguise, that was the end of it.
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't going to listen to anything else. At that moment, Bismuth was no different than Jasper.
Mm-hmm.
Referring to Steven as Rose, refusing to see Steven as anything other than Rose.
Well, yeah, but Bismuth sort of has a semi-defendable reason. She realized that Rose is a liar, that Rose is capable of keeping secrets, of lying to people, and maybe she's just lying about being Steven. Maybe Rose actually is in there, controlling everything and just acting weaker to, you know, slip through the cracks, pun unintentional. And that's what Bismuth believes now. And Bismuth is more than ready to take up their fight where they left off.
Right, and fortunately, the truth of the matter is probably closer to Rose is Steven's moral center.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, when faced with the same quandary, he comes up with the same response.
Yeah, they just happen to stumble upon the same solution.
Right.
But the way that Bismuth sees it, she could have saved all of the crystal gems that got corrupted or broken because she came up with a means of stopping Homeworld, and Rose just didn't want to accept that, and so Rose is the reason why all of Bismuth's friends are gone now.
Yeah, psychologically, Bismuth is dealing with the survivor syndrome.
Yeah.
Because she got poofed. We presume that gems are not aware of the passage of time while they're poofed and bubbled.
Yeah.
So she reemerges 5,300 years later. All of the crystal gems, save Pearl and Garnet, are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the whole scene in the Strawberry Battlefield totally sheds that scene in a new light now.
Yeah.
She realizes that she's the only survivor of this, something that she feels she could have prevented.
Mm-hmm. So
that's kind of what drives her there. What frustrates me so much about this episode, because when this episode ended, I felt sad.
Well, yeah,
because
I think you're supposed to.
I felt like it was perfectly possible for Bismuth to be reasoned with had the right conversations occurred before this whole breaking point encounter.
Yeah, but I think that Bismuth was just so eager to have her second chance at getting the breaking point onto the battlefield that she kind of just pushed for that to happen, maybe a little too soon.
But the Crystal Gems' goal in this modern era, in the second era, is to defend Earth, not to bring the fight to Homeworld.
Yeah.
They'd be perfectly happy if Homeworld just left Earth alone and did their own thing.
Yeah, but I think that at least secretly, the Crystal Gems know that that's not going to happen. They know that Homeworld's going to come eventually because they keep popping up.
Yeah.
But interesting that you mentioned Era 2 because one of the things that Bismuth said is that Rose told her that that gems were being convinced to ignore their own potential.
Ooh, I missed that.
Yes, and this may be more hints that a greater hint that the diamonds are lying to gems in order to try to keep them suppressed, to keep the masses suppressed so that they don't rise up and revolt.
Right. Bismuth almost kind of redeems herself a bit when she begs Steven to shatter her with the breaking point.
Yeah.
She'd rather be dead than live in this world where all of her friends are gone and her skills seem to be unwanted.
Well, not just that, but I'm sure that at one point, Bismuth really did look up to Rose, really did appreciate everything she did, but what happened made Bismuth feel like Rose didn't care about her. And so she doesn't want to live in a world where she could put her faith and trust and all of her hard work into somebody hoping that they would appreciate it, only to be effectively knocked out and put into a coma for 5,000 years.
Yeah. It still begs the question, did Rose put the Bismuth bubble in line so that it would be, quote, locked away forever? Or did Rose plan on releasing Bismuth at some point when she could be reasoned with or something like that?
I think that Bismuth was inside Lion for the same reason as why anything is inside Lion, because only Steven can get access to it. And I think that Rose believes that she made a mistake, or that she really regrets poofing Bismuth, and she put Bismuth's bubble in there hoping that one day she could reconnect with Bismuth and make things right.
Right. So Steven did what Rose did not, and told the Crystal Gems what had happened.
Yeah, he specifically says, I will tell them what happened, and she responds with, well, maybe you will be better than her.
And they come to the same conclusion. And again, this whole, like, we have to stand behind Rose's decisions. So they keep her bubbled, and they keep her in the temple. Now, at this point, I wonder, what's the future of Bismuth is kind of the question here. I think if Jasper at some point gains access to the temple and somehow, in some almost Team Rocket way, mass collects the bubbles, okay, would Bismuth be loyal to the Crystal Gems anymore? I mean, she's super loyal to the cause now, but in her current state, could Jasper convince her to do otherwise.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thought because it's unignorable the fact that she's in the temple now, and that obviously there's a lot of corrupted gems there. That's what Jasper's looking for. So one of two things is going to happen, in my opinion. Either Jasper's going to get to the temple, get all those corrupted gems, and Bismuth is going to join Jasper in an attempt to finally put her skills to use. Or there's going to be a scene where they can finally heal corrupted gems, and as they're like pulling the bubbles down to start healing them, they're like, oh wait, Bismuth, and then she's gonna be there for whatever big battle they're healing the corrupted gems for.
It's funny because I've always imagined for a while some point where they can heal the corrupted gems and they produce the new crystal gem army, but all the stuff with Jasper makes me wonder, is Jasper going to take all the corrupted gems and make a corrupted gem army, and we're going to have this sort of weird thing where there's a mega fight between the crystal gems and all the monsters we've previously seen in the series?
That would be honestly pretty cool. I'm not even gonna lie.
That would be so much
awesome
fan service.
But there are a lot of things to look forward to next week.
Yes, which is supposed to be the last week of this season.
It's
a wild ride. We're holding on.
I can't even imagine what's gonna come next, and I'm really, really holding out for the best season finale that we've had yet.
Yes.
But until then, if you guys want to get in contact with us to discuss our opinions, to volunteer any theories of your own, anything you'd like to hear us talk about, you can contact us on pretty much any social media platform. We've got Twitter, we've got Tumblr, we've got Facebook, we're on Reddit, pretty much always under the name GemTalk. Usually all one word. And we also have an email address if you want to send anything to us directly. We're more than happy to answer questions on the air at gemtalkpodcast@gmail.com. All one word.
Yep. I recently put a post on Tumblr all about Bismuth.
Yes.
The element.
Yes.
And
Mr. Ken here has actually made bismuth crystals of his own accord.
Yeah, and I decided it would be fun to post the recipe, for lack of a better term, for making bismuth crystals, and we posted it on Tumblr. It's had a pretty decent response from people.
But that's it for tonight. We're going to go take off and mentally and emotionally prepare ourselves for the week to come.
Yep, starting off with a double header on Monday of Beta and Earthlings.
Oh man, I can't wait. But until then, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.